Once a giant, always a giant.
Welcome back to All Day Giants. Today, we have a lot to go over. I haven't posted in a minute. I've been traveling, things like that, dealing with school, but I'm back. Today, we're going to be talking about the 11th pick, what to do at the 42. We're going to go over Daniel Jones in his year 3 and what everything that has been happening during the offseason, what it says about him. We're also going to talk about some of the hate that he's been getting. I posted on Twitter a few days ago, basically that he's just been getting some unnecessary hate and that he's just been living rent-free in a lot of people's heads. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about what Golladay means for Saquon. And, I've mentioned it a lot in past videos about how it'll take the pressure off, but we're going to go deeper into that. And then we're going to finish things off with the Giants adding Adoree Jackson and having interest in Jason McCourty. So, let's jump back to the first question and let's go to what to do at 11. Now, obviously, if you want for Daniel Jones to succeed, that's what everybody wants. That's what everybody's praying for. There's one thing we have left to do. You have to go O-line. That's pretty much all you can do. Now, there's a gap. There's a known gap between O-tackle 1, O-tackle 2, and then O-tackle 3. O-tackle 1 and O-tackle 2 are Sewell and Slater, and they're pretty close. Now, some people have Slater ahead of Sewell. Some people have Sewell ahead, and it's vice versa. It all depends on the person you're talking to. And then it goes Darrisaw and Tevin Jenkins. We don't want the O-tackle 3 or 4. I have no problem with Darrisaw. He's a great pass-protecting O-lineman, but I just don't think he's the answer at 11. If we decided to trade back, I would not hate the pick. I would actually be an advocate for the pick. But if we stuck at 11, Sewell has been falling on draft boards due to some quote-unquote character concerns and the fact that he's still really young and people just don't think he's ready to be at max potential, which is fine. And I think it all depends on really the Bengals, because if the Bengals decide that they're going to go chase, I think that changes the dynamic of what the Giants can do at the 11. Now, if the Bengals go chase, Miami's next. I highly doubt they'll take Sewell over Pitts. I think you go Pitts at that pick. And then you've got Detroit and I think the Panthers. So then Detroit's not taking an offensive lineman. Neither is... Carolina really is the only other worry besides that. But it all depends on what they have. And Sewell's my O-tackle 1. I've been saying that for the longest. I love him. I love his potential. And I think he's a great tackle who could pair up with Andrew Thomas really well. That's what I think is what we need to do. But I'm also an advocate for Slater too. I just think we go O-lineman. I think with the 11th pick, I think it benefits us where we have Dallas in front of us. I think it's well known that they're going Surtain or Horn or maybe even Farley. Denver, I think, will lean to Micah Parsons because their defense needs a linebacker. So I think we don't really have to worry about them. And then it's Carolina to where, I think they might, they're at a luxury pick to where they can't, unless a quarterback, which is very likely, if San Francisco take Mac Jones with the 3, which I heard it's a lock that they will do. If they decide that, there's a good chance that a quarterback falls to 8 to Carolina, and therefore if Chase goes to 5 to the Bengals, which is also very likely with Burrow being an advocate for that, I think there's a really good chance that not only will one fall to the 11, but that both can. Now, I know that's not the hot thing to say, but with the way the draft board is set up, I do solely believe that we have a good chance at Sewell and Slater being there for us to pick. And if not one, I'm pretty certain that one of them will be there. Now, there have been reports that Detroit and or Atlanta are looking to trade back. And if they are looking to trade back, I said it in my last video, or one of my last previous videos, that I would not hate a trade up. Now, the Giants are not in no position to be trading up. We only have 6 picks. I understand that. You have to understand that we want our quarterback to succeed. And if we decide that, no, we'll stay put at 11 and we're just going to see where everything falls to us, I'm fine with that. I totally understand. But we can't be looking back and be like, oh, we could have traded. Like now, everybody looks back at it and says, oh, we wish McAdoo would have traded up to 10. I know it was reports that he wanted to trade up for Mahomes. Now we're looking back saying, oh, we wish we did that. We don't want to keep doing that. If we feel as though Jamar Chase is there at the Detroit pick or Penny Sewell is there at the Detroit pick and we're like, okay, that's our guy, then I think we should go get them. Don't hesitate. Don't fall back and get conservative, especially with the team we have. We have a very good roster. Take away the quarterback position, and I know that's a heavy thing to say, but take away the quarterback position. The Giants have arguably a top 5 to top 10 roster on paper right now in the NFL. You look at it, the only problem they really have is offensive line. And if we can fix that up, we will have a top 5 to top 7 roster in the NFL, and I think we'd have the best roster in our division. Now, you look at our division, of course, each team has their problems. So that's why it's a very winnable division. Dallas, yes, they have the best quarterback in the division. Their running back had a very bad year. Their O-line is starting to age and having injury problems. They do have a great wide receiving core, but as you saw, Dak was 1-3 with that offense when healthy, all because of that defense. And yes, I know they signed KZ and Keanu Neal. That's not gonna solve no problems. I know that's a popular signing, I guess you can say, for them because it was on the defensive end. But unless decides to go defense with each pick they have, I don't see Dallas's defense changing at all from what they had last year. Washington, I think they're our main competitor in this division. I think like this thing that Fitzpatrick is just going to be a savior for this offense. It blows my mind, honestly, and how the fact that people are like, okay, they got Fitzpatrick, they're winning the division. Fitzpatrick is not a starting quarterback. Fitzpatrick is a great backup. A great backup does not mean a good starter. He can obviously come in for Tua and finish the game off and win the game. Yes, he can do that. But take away this last season by Fitzpatrick. Fitzpatrick hasn't done much. You look at his past few seasons before moving to Miami. Fitzpatrick had a good first game, good second game, and then went downhill from there. He was never on. I don't think Fitzpatrick has ever made the playoffs. Why is everybody assuming that now all of a sudden because he's on this team, because he did well last year, that the guy's just going to be a great starter? He is not a quarterback one. He is a great backup. You throw him in San Francisco and behind Jimmy G because he has problems, then he's a great backup. He's not a good starter. Heineke has one game started. Like I know I'm not one game started, but he had that one playoff game, and now everybody's like, okay, he's the real deal. He had a great game against the Super Bowl champions. I don't disregard that. But you still have to understand, that is way different than playing 17 games now with the extended season. Now you have 17 games, and you're playing repeatedly, giving your all. He got hurt in that game. So dependability is also a big thing. So offensive line, that's my 1A. I'm sticking to that. It's offensive line at that pick. It's not the pretty pick, but it's what we need. Next, I know previously I was on the Waddle train, but actually I've switched. And I will accept that I'm not going to say wrong because we haven't seen him, but I will accept that I'm going against myself and I'm kind of contradicting myself, and kind of. But I love Devontae Smith. And now this consensus that just because he weighs 174 pounds just blows my mind. I get it. He's smaller. He might have press problems. This dude tore up at Alabama. He was going against Division I players constantly. People who are going to be round one picks constantly. These corners who are supposed to be the best of the best. He tore them up on a daily basis. Like, how much more can you ask of him? I get it. When you go to the NFL, you're going to face Ramses and things like that. But if you put him aside Golladay, he'll be going against cornerback 2. There's not one cornerback 2 that you can tell me that is just going to press this man off the line consistently. He is arguably the best route runner in this draft class. In my opinion, the best route runner. You put him against William Jackson. Slayton tore up William Jackson in a preseason game. Come on. These cornerback 2s out here aren't just going to be locking down Devontae Smith. I think if we got him, we'd have arguably a top 5 receiving core with Golladay and now Devontae Smith. Then you can't forget about Slayton, Shepard, Rudolph, Ingram. Like, come on. Like, and I kind of want to sprinkle this in. I was going back over Daniel Jones' first start. I think not only was that his best career game, but it was also Evan Ingram's. And you look at it like Evan Ingram played great in that game. He was catching everything. He had a one-hand catch to pick up a first down. He had the 60-yard touchdown run with 40 yards after the catch. He played great in that game. So if we can get him back to that form, also while having Saquon there, I think this offense can really be Daniel Jones. You got to do what you got to do. Come on, pick up the slack. And then my 1C, and this is a guy I really fell in love with due to, and I'm not a big pro day guy, and all the people falling in love with the pro days by quarterbacks and things like that, I take that with a grain of salt. You're throwing the ball with no pads, you're comfortable. Like Colin Cowherd loves to say, the NFL is discomfort. You have pads on, you have a helmet on, you have limited vision, things like that. Pro day shows none of that. It just shows what you can do on a field with a bunch of people watching you. It's all that is. But Julian Phillips is starting to separate himself as the edge one in this draft class. And the only reason he's not a surefire top 15, top 10 pick is because of his injury history. He has retired from football before due to the amount of injuries he has had and had to deal with. But he came back and he played great at Miami, and now he's making a case for edge one. And a lot of people like to compare him to guys like Rousseau, and you've got Osai and guys like Azeez Ojulari and guys like that. But his frame, I think he's like 6'5", 6'6", and he's quick off the edge, and he just terrorizes quarterbacks. He understands how to deal with, I was watching film on one game, and he got completely shut out in the first half. But he adjusted like that and was like, okay, this isn't working, and he knew what to do, and then the second half he tore it up. I think one of the Giants' biggest needs is edge. And I think with the Adoree Jackson signing, and we'll talk about that later in the video, I think with the Adoree Jackson signing, that just makes edge that much of a bigger problem, because although we're going to have coverage sacks, imagine how good a good rush and a good pass and good coverage combines together, especially with Patrick Graham. I think if Phillips was there, I also think he might fall to us in the second round, but I highly doubt that due to his potential and how much he's just been flying on draft boards. So I don't know, but actually I want to get into what we can do with the 42nd, and I know I said Sewell/Slater are almost surefire picks or one of them are going to be there at 11. If they aren't, I do say we go Smith or Phillips, but there's two things I want at the 42nd pick, and I'm going to start off with my 1A is either guard or tackle. Tevin Jenkins might fall, or there might be Liam Eichenberg is going to be there in the second round. So it all depends on what we do with the 11th pick. But there's one guy that I really like, and his name is Jamin Davis. And I saw a report of him a couple months ago. He started out as like a 4th-round pick, and now he's jumped his way up to like 2nd round. Just because this guy ran like a 4.39, and personally, I just wrote an article about this. The 40-yard dash means nothing. Like this year, it means nothing at all. It's been wonky. Too many guys running 4.3s and things like that. But on film, it looks like he's fast. He's arguably one of the greatest sideline-to-sideline linebackers in this class. I think it goes Parsons, JOK, and then it's like him, Chaz Surratt, and a few other guys. But I think he's the third best linebacker, even over Nick Bolton. I think Nick Bolton just won't last that long in this league because he just puts his head down and tries to hit guys. And I personally like Jamin Davis. I think his pro comparison, like his ceiling, is Devin White. Like he just is that fast. He can terrorize guys like that. But he also might, just due to, I'm not going to say lack of competition, but I feel like he just won't. I'm not going to say he won't pan out, because I really do think this guy will pan out and will be a great linebacker and will be a sleeper day 2 pick. So that's my 1B. I want us to go and get him. That's why I kind of want us to go tackle /guard in the first round. I'm kind of okay with Elijah Vera Tucker at 11. I would prefer if we did that in the trade back. But I would like O-lineman at 11, Jamin Davis at 2, and then a guy who started out in the 7th round, but Jalen Darden, out of I think it's like North Texas. I've been an advocate for this guy for the longest. His tape just jumps off. He ran like a 4.5, a 4.45, but on tape he looks way faster than that. He's a killer guy, good route runner, and things like that. I just think due to his lower end school, he's going to be falling on draft boards and things like that. But if we can get him in the third round and go O-line and then Jamin Davis and pick him up, I honestly think A-plus draft, A-plus offseason from Gettleman. It's all on Jones. Now, speaking of Jones, let's go on to the next one, and let's talk about him in year 3. Now, PFF recently came out with the stat that Daniel Jones had the 19th most pass attempts last season and the 7th most incompletions deemed the wide receiver's fault with 36. Now, let's just listen to that what Daniel Jones had to deal with this season. He had Evan Ingram, who was, you can have the Pro Bowl, but he played awful this season. Saquon was out, so he had to deal with Wayne Gallman, Alfred Morris, Devontae Freeman as his running backs. So although we all love Wayne Train, that's nothing really special right there. And then he had Darius Slayton, Sterling Shepard, and then Golden Tate. And Golden Tate was a drama queen throughout the season. Slayton, although I think he led the team in receiving yards, he was a bit inconsistent. And Shepard, when he was there, he was Jones' main target, but he just had to deal with injuries here and there. But you add Kenny Golladay, you add a healthy Saquon, and Kyle Rudolph. Now, when people hear Kyle Rudolph, they're like, oh, he's old, he only is a red zone threat. And in my opinion, that's just not all Rudolph is. Rudolph isn't strictly, okay, he's only there for production-wise. No, Rudolph is arguably the most consistent catcher at the tight end position. And we have the most inconsistent catcher when it comes to the tight end position in Evan Ingram. If Evan Ingram can pair consistency and his yard after the catch ability, he will be, and I'll say it, he can be up there with I'm not going to say Travis Kelce, George Kittle, but he can have Darren Waller type production. He can be that if he can just pair it all together and stop getting in his own way. He's always in his own way, shooting himself in the foot. Just catch the ball first and then go. If Kyle Rudolph can teach that to him, it'll be lights out for his potential. And I want us to re-sign him. And if he can show us something, I think we can re-sign him on a lower end deal, and then we can be having a good tight end with a lower end deal who won't hit the cap that much. So Daniel Jones does have a lot riding on him, and I'm glad I didn't forget this. I want to mention Stephen A. has been literally every sports analyst that you can see has been writing on Daniel Jones about he's going to be bad this year. I don't know why y'all have faith in him. There's been a trend on TikTok and YouTube on making fun of his elite ball placement. The famous play has been his miscommunication play against Baltimore where he threw it was an option route and he threw it expecting the wide receiver to go deep. The wide receiver, I think it was Shepard, came on a curl route. But there's been this misconception, and I don't know why when it comes to Jones, why people are so hateful toward him. You look at Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield got his third year, and then people figured out things on his third year. You look at Josh Allen. Everybody was canceling him out in year 2. Oh, he got a wide receiver 1, and now he's a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. Where is this consensus that because he's in year 2, now all of a sudden you can't give him a third year? I know the NFL is adapting, and if you're not good on your rookie contract, you're not good at all. But why can't he play out that? Now, this is Jones' first season with talent around him, surefire talent around him. Saquon was inconsistent when it came to injuries. His first season, he was in and out, and he wasn't his full self until later in the season. Then you've got this year where he had no Saquon, and his receiving core has never had that wide receiver 1. Even dating back to his Duke days, he hasn't had that. So it's now that he has all this, why is everybody oh, because he has all this, he's not going to do good? This guy has potential. He has mobility. He has the arm. He just has to have better pocket awareness, and that also comes with protecting him in the O-line. His O-line has been bad since he's been in the league. If you can protect him, he's shown that if you give him time, he can make the right read. No quarterback. Look at Mahomes for example. In the Super Bowl, he played great, but he had no O-line, so he put up 9 points. O-line is very important. You build in and then out. You don't build out and then in, and that's what we did. We built out and then in. We need to protect him with the O-line, and then we can expect him to perform. It does rely a lot on him this year, and his production depends a lot on this team. If he ends up not doing or not exceeding expectations this year and going above average, then this team will be set back, and we'll either have to trade for a quarterback or we'll have to pick one up in free agency and hope that it goes well. Because with the roster we have now, we have a young defense, young offense, and we cannot waste that by trying to spend another first round pick on a quarterback unless there's a surefire guy that we believe can produce year one. Unless that's gonna happen, we're gonna be set back a few years if Jones doesn't pan out. I think Gettleman saved his job for another year, because if Daniel Jones doesn't pan out, he built a hell of a roster with going from that Odell trade to now what we have. I think this team is in a very good place. He saved himself. Now, let's talk about what the Golladay addition means for Saquon. And this means one thing in my opinion, and that's a breakout year for Saquon. The last time he played with the wide receiver one was Odell Beckham. And I think now that defenses cannot stack the box against us and say, oh, they only have one guy who can beat us, and that's why I'm an advocate also for Devontae Smith, because then you'll have to worry about a Heisman winning wide receiver across from another wide receiver one. I think that'll have defenses actually playing true to the ball, and they won't be able to blitz. Like, the amount of times we get blitzed is out of this world, and that's because teams don't have to worry about getting beat over top. That's a big thing when it comes to Golladay, is that he can beat people over top. And people like to say, oh, he's only a guy who can go up and get it. He's a solid route runner, too. His route tree is extensive. He's not limited to just fly balls. That's not what he is. And when people try to say that, it's ridiculous. Last time he played with Odell, he had 2,000 all-purpose yards. Like, the guy, Saquon, is the best running back in football. And this consensus that, oh, yeah, Derrick Henry, CMC, you literally build, if you go from scratch and build everything you need in a running back, you're building Saquon. Saquon is the best running back in football when healthy. You cannot argue that. This guy can make, by himself, 3-4 people miss and take it all the way. This guy is a touchdown waiting to happen at the running back position. He's a generational talent. Yes, Derrick Henry has been more available than he has, but Saquon also has just been getting beat up when it came to the O-line, and I don't think going O-line at 11 only supports Jones, but also Saquon Barkley, because we need him to succeed as well as we do Daniel Jones, and we cannot have another year where he either gets injured or something bad happens when it comes to Saquon. I'm tired of having to wait to see the potential for this team. We really can make that next level step if Jones ends up being I think he has a position to be a top 10 quarterback, and if he does hit that, which would exceed many people's expectations, this team is a Super Bowl caliber team. I easily think the Giants can win the division this year, especially having the 8th easiest schedule. I think the Giants can win the division easily this year. Let's go on to the final topic about the Adoree Jackson signing. I think with Patrick Graham now, people say, oh yeah, he's terrible, he's a terrible corner. I agree. He's not a good cornerback one. But that's not what he is on this team. You see the duo right next to me. That guy 24 is our cornerback one. That's the guy who's going to be leading that defense when it comes to the secondary. Him. Adoree Jackson is a great cornerback two with top end speed who can keep up with those other guys at the cornerback two position. There's no wide receiver two position. There's no wide receiver two that's just super dominant. You're telling me Adoree Jackson can't keep up with CeeDee Lamb and Michael Gallup? He can't keep up with Curtis Samuel? Come on, man. He's a good cornerback too. Bradbury has shown to be the father of NFC East wide receivers. He's the father of Amari Cooper. He's the father of whoever the Eagles call their wide receiver one. I'll go with Rager. And then he's the father of Terry McLaurin. Terry McLaurin didn't do anything on James Bradbury. And now you're telling me we have a corner aside from Bradbury who we can trust to play. The only question he has is injury concern. That's the only question. So if we can believe in him to stay healthy, Lord, is this defense gonna be where we need it to be? We were ranked ninth this year. We can be ranked top 5. And if there's no, it hasn't happened, but there's been reports that there's been mutual interest between McCourty and the Giants, and of course we have ties. Joe Judge coming from New England and things like that, so there's ties there. But not only would that make Adoree go to the slot and he would share reps with Darnay Holmes, which I think would put Darnay Holmes light years ahead of where he is now. I think he's a steal where we got him in the 4th round, but I believe McCourty just adds that veteran presence, and he can provide leadership to even James Bradbury. James Bradbury is the type of guy who's always willing to learn and continue to grow, and that's what you love to see in a guy like Bradbury. But McCourty can just add, he would be put at cornerback too, and that was like, listen to our secondary if we got McCourty. We're going to start from the bottom. I'm going to go Jordan Love, Xavier McKinney. Then you got Jabril Peppers, Darnay Holmes, Bradbury, Adoree Jackson, McCourty. Hope I'm not forgetting nobody. That's 7 guys that I just named who are excellent, either role-playing guys such as Love or starting guys like, Logan Ryan. How did I forget him? Yeah, Logan Ryan. Come on, arguably the best secondary in the NFL. I can't say how proud I am of what Dave Gettleman has done this offseason. He has exceeded expectations. He dug money where we didn't think we did. We started out with -3, and now look at us. This team was built for number 8. It all falls on number 8 and what he can do. I think the Giants will win the division this year. No more, like, we're going to be competing with Washington, in my opinion, not Dallas. And Daniel Jones owns Washington. He's 4-0 against them, and I don't see that changing. This has been All Day Giants. I'm back for good now. I'll be recording more consistently. I'm going to do a mock draft, and I'm not sure how I'm going to format it yet, but I'm definitely going to do a mock draft in the coming weeks. I kind of want everything to slow down. I want to do one in the next few weeks, a couple weeks before the draft, and then one a day or two before the draft just to see how right I am and things like that. But yeah, that's what's coming up. This has been All Day Giants. Peace.